We often think that in order to change our lives, we need to do something dramatic, quit the job, move across the world, start over, reinvent everything. That's the myth we've been sold, that transformation is loud, risky, and immediate. But in truth, the most powerful changes in our lives begin quietly, not with a bang, but with a whisper. And it begins with one choice to do one thing, just one, that improves your life today. You see, we underestimate the power of consistency. We glorify the people who make grand gestures, the person who lost 100 pounds or started $1 million business or ran an ultramarathon. But if you ask them how they did it, almost every time, their answer will sound disappointingly simple. One step at a time, one habit at a time. I just kept showing up because that's how real growth works. Not overnight, not in some moment of magical inspiration. It works through a series of seemingly insignificant choices repeated day after day. It works through the decision to do one thing daily that nudges us forward, even when nobody notices, even when the results aren't immediate. But let's be honest, most of us don't do it, not because we're lazy or unmotivated, but because we overthink the process. We ask ourselves, what's the perfect habit? What's the right way to improve? What if it doesn't make a difference? And in that swirl of overthinking, we do nothing. We wait. We wait for clarity. We wait for motivation. We wait for the right time. And here's the hard truth. If you're waiting, then you'll just keep waiting. Change doesn't require clarity to begin. Clarity comes from movement, and movement begins with one small act. So maybe today, that one thing is setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier so you can sit in silence before the day starts. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning instead of reaching for your phone. Maybe it's sending a message to someone you love, or reading one page of a book that challenges you, or writing one paragraph of a dream you've been putting off. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to be intentional. And yes, it might feel like it doesn't matter. You might ask, what difference does it make if I meditate for 2 minutes? Or how does one paragraph change anything? But that's where we're wrong. Because those small acts are not just tasks. They're messages, signals we send to ourselves about the kind of person we are becoming. When you take that one step, however small, you're casting a vote for the future version of you. And those votes count. The world wants you to believe that unless it's viral, it's not valuable. Unless it's big, it's not meaningful. But some of the most meaningful things we ever do never get noticed. No likes, no external validation. Just you in a quiet moment choosing to be 1% better than yesterday. And that's the hard part, isn't it? Doing something that matters when it feels like it doesn't. But that's where integrity lies, in the choices we make when no one's watching. The person who takes the stairs when no one's keeping score. The person who listens instead of interrupting. The person who writes in a gratitude journal when no one will ever read it. Those are the people who grow. Not because they're perfect, but because they've made a habit out of being deliberate. And here's something we often miss. It's not the action itself that changes us. It's who we become because of the discipline behind it. The person who works out every day doesn't just build muscle. They build self-respect. The person who reads every morning doesn't just learn. They build identity. The act is just the surface. The meaning is what lies underneath. That's why one small action, repeated daily, is more powerful than 100 big actions done occasionally. Because what we do daily becomes a rhythm. And that rhythm shapes our reality. Habits are how we sculpt our identity, one repetition at a time. You don't have to change everything. You just have to choose one thing, something aligned with the life you want to build, and do it every single day. Of course, there will be days when you don't feel like it. Days when it feels pointless. Days when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels impossibly wide. But that's when it matters most. Because those are the days that teach you discipline. They teach you patience. They teach you what it means to keep a promise to yourself even when it's hard. You'll be tempted to look for shortcuts. You'll see people sprinting while you're walking. You'll want to throw away the process because the progress isn't instant. But what you'll learn is that slow progress is still progress. The person you are becoming doesn't need to impress anyone. They just need to keep showing up. There's an old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. If you had started doing one small thing daily to improve your life a year ago, imagine where you'd be today. And if you start today, a year from now, you'll be glad you did. But if you don't start, nothing changes. A better life isn't waiting for you to stumble across it. It's waiting for you to build it, one small choice at a time. We think we need to do something amazing to earn a better life. But what we really need is to be consistent, not extraordinary. The truth is, extraordinary results come from ordinary actions done with extraordinary consistency. It's not magic. It's math. One choice, then another, then another. And over time, you look back and realize you're no longer the person you were. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a pattern, a new rhythm, a new lens that says, Today matters. Not someday, not later. Not when it's easier now. So let's stop waiting. Let's stop convincing ourselves that we need to be ready. Let's stop looking at the mountain and getting overwhelmed. Just take one step. One meaningful step today. Because the secret to a better life isn't found in the big things. It's found in the small things you do when no one's watching. The things that improve you. The things that align with who you want to be. Do one of those things every day and watch who you become. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Everywhere we turn, the message is the same. Move faster, hustle harder, get ahead. But here's the thing no one tells you. Moving quickly in the wrong direction doesn't get you any closer to a meaningful life. It just gets you lost faster. We are conditioned to believe that momentum equals progress. That if we're busy, we're growing. But there's a critical difference between movement and direction. A hamster can run full speed on a wheel and never get anywhere. And that's how many people live constantly in motion but going nowhere. Productive on the outside, aimless on the inside. It's easy to mistake motion for purpose. You wake up, check your phone, answer emails, cross tasks off a list, stay busy from sunrise to sunset, and still feel unfulfilled. Why? Because you're sprinting towards someone else's idea of success. You're moving, but not towards something that truly matters to you. And eventually that catches up with you. Not in the form of failure, but fatigue, a deep, soul-level exhaustion that whispers, this isn't it. The truth is, we don't need more speed. We need more clarity. Clarity about who we are, what we value, and where we actually want to go. Direction is more powerful than pace. If you're walking slowly in the right direction, you're still moving closer to a life that fulfills you. If you're running fast in the wrong one, you're just creating more distance from what actually matters. That's why doing one thing daily to improve your life must begin with direction. It's not just about checking off a healthy habit or mastering a productivity hack. It's about aligning that action with something bigger. Something meaningful. Something that connects to the person you want to become. We all want to improve. But improvement without intention is just noise. It looks impressive on the outside. Early mornings, long hours, packed schedules. But it lacks depth. Real growth begins when we pause long enough to ask ourselves, is this leading me somewhere worth going? That question isn't easy, it requires courage. It requires us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that some of the things we've been chasing, some of the things we've been doing every day, aren't actually helping us become better. They're just keeping us distracted. They're just filling space. But once we answer it, once we point ourselves in a direction that actually aligns with our values, then every step becomes meaningful. Every small improvement becomes part of a bigger story. And that story is yours. We're not supposed to have it all figured out. Direction doesn't mean you have a perfect plan. It just means you're facing the right way. You're guided by intention instead of impulse. You're choosing your steps, not just taking them blindly. And that changes everything. Because here's the beauty of it, once you're facing the right direction, you no longer need to panic about the pace. You stop comparing yourself to people who seem further ahead. You stop rushing the process. You stop letting fear of falling behind dictate your behavior. You realize that progress is personal. That alignment matters more than acceleration. It's easy to forget this, especially in a world that worships speed. We see overnight success stories, viral fame, fast-track promotions, and we feel like we're falling behind. But what we're really falling behind is the illusion. The illusion that faster is better. The illusion that progress must be visible to be valid. True progress is often quiet, invisible. It happens beneath the surface, in the unseen moments. In the choice to slow down and reflect. In the courage to say no to what doesn't serve you. In the decision to walk away from paths that may be popular but not purposeful. And once you commit to direction over speed, something incredible happens. You start to feel peace. Not the passive kind of peace that comes from doing nothing, but the deep, grounded peace that comes from knowing you're doing the right thing, even if it's not the fastest thing. You're moving towards something real. Something that matters. And that gives every small daily action incredible power. Because now that one thing you do daily isn't just a habit. It's a compass, a signal to yourself that you are still pointed toward the life you want to live. It could be journaling, or walking without your phone, or spending 10 minutes truly listening to your child. The task itself doesn't have to be impressive to others. It just has to be in alignment with what you value. Because that alignment gives your life structure. It gives you a sense of progress even on the days when everything else feels uncertain. Direction also allows for patience. When you know where you're going, you stop demanding instant results. You stop needing to prove your worth through speed. You become someone who can trust the process because you know the process is worth trusting. You begin to see setbacks differently too. They don't become signs to quit, they become feedback. Clarity sharpens. Resilience deepens. You stop being reactive and start being responsible. Responsible for your steps, your choices, your energy. So if you're not where you want to be right now, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're behind. It might just mean you've been moving without checking the map. And the beautiful thing is, you can change direction at any time. It doesn't require a dramatic pivot. Just a moment of awareness, a moment of honesty, a moment where you ask, is this taking me somewhere I actually want to go? That question can change your life. And the answer doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. Because once you start answering it, once you begin walking towards something meaningful, momentum will come. Not the chaotic, desperate kind of momentum that burns you out, but the grounded kind that builds you up. That's the kind of life you want to build. Not the one that looks fastest from the outside, but the one that feels truest from the inside. And that life begins with one small action. Not any action, a deliberate one. Something that reflects your values. Something that honors your future. Something that turns today into a building block for something meaningful. Direction over speed, always. Because life isn't a race, it's a story. And the best stories aren't rushed. They're written with intention, one page at a time. We often admire people who appear incredibly disciplined. The ones who wake up at 5 a.m., train every day, eat clean, manage their time, and keep promises to themselves. We look at them and think, I wish I was born with that kind of discipline. But the truth is, they weren't born with anything special. Discipline isn't a genetic trait. It's not something you have. It's something you choose. And you don't just choose it once, you choose it over and over every single day. There's a quiet dignity in that, in the choice. In the decision to do something hard even when you don't feel like it. Because in those moments, those small, private, often uncomfortable moments, you are shaping your future. You are defining your identity. Discipline isn't about control. It's about intention. It's the choice to act in alignment with who you want to become, even when your current mood says otherwise. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. But it is the foundation of every meaningful achievement. Most people think of discipline as something painful, restrictive, even punishing. But that view is rooted in misunderstanding. Discipline isn't about doing what you hate. It's about doing what matters. It's about keeping a promise to your future self. And that's where real freedom comes from, not from giving in to every impulse, but from knowing you are capable of leading yourself. Every time you choose discipline, you send a message to yourself, I'm in charge. That message compounds, it builds trust, and eventually that trust turns into belief. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through. And belief is where momentum is born. We often wait to feel motivated before we act. But motivation is fleeting, it's unreliable. Discipline is what carries you when motivation fades. Discipline is waking up and doing the work not because you feel like it, but because you've decided that the outcome is worth it. That daily decision made again and again is what separates the people who grow from the people who stay stuck. Not talent, not luck. Just the willingness to act with intention regardless of how easy or convenient it is. The people we admire most aren't extraordinary. They're simply consistent. They show up on the hard days. They make the call when it's uncomfortable. They keep writing when no one's reading. They exercise when no one's watching. Their greatness isn't rooted in a single moment of inspiration. It's rooted in repetition. Repetition builds identity, and identity fuels behavior. When you do one thing daily that improves your life, especially when it's hard, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop saying, I wish I were disciplined, and you start believing, I am someone who follows through. And that shift changes everything. We often don't realize we have the power to become the person we admire. We think there's some secret code, some hidden switch that other people have found. But there is no secret. There's only the choice to begin. And then the choice to begin again tomorrow. That's it. Discipline is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. A conversation you have with yourself every morning. A silent promise you keep when no one's holding you accountable but you. It's in those quiet, lonely decisions that character is formed. You won't always want to do it. You won't always feel capable. Some days will feel like a fight against yourself, but it's in those exact moments that you grow. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you act in spite of resistance. That's the paradox. The moment you feel the most resistance is the moment that matters most, because every time you push through, you're not just completing a task, you're rewriting your story. You're becoming someone who does the hard thing, someone who can be trusted, someone who moves forward even when it's not easy. And what's more empowering than that? To know you're not at the mercy of your mood, that you are capable of choosing action, of choosing growth, of choosing to keep going when most people quit. Discipline doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for commitment, it asks for courage. The courage to choose what's right over what's easy. To invest in the future when the present wants comfort. To delay gratification for something deeper, something real. Every disciplined action is a brick, a building block. You may not see the structure at first, but brick by brick, you are constructing a life that reflects your values. A life built on purpose, not pressure. On principles, not panic. It's easy to romanticize success, to see the highlight reels and forget the effort behind them. But behind every strong person, every remarkable career, every powerful story, there is a foundation of discipline. Not dramatic, not flashy, just persistent, consistent, intentional. That can be you. If you're willing to choose it, and if you slip because you will, discipline doesn't disappear. It waits for your next decision. Discipline isn't about never missing. It's about never quitting. It's about getting back up with humility and saying, I begin again. That too is discipline. The decision to return, to recommit, to show yourself grace without excusing the behavior, to hold yourself to a standard without falling into shame. Because discipline at its core is an act of love, not punishment, not pressure. Love, the kind of love that believes your future is worth the effort. That you are worthy of living in alignment with your values. That your life doesn't need to be ruled by impulse. It can be guided by purpose. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You just need to make one decision today. One action that improves your life even a little. And then do it again tomorrow. And again the day after that. That's how identity is built. Not through declarations, but through actions. Through daily choices. Through the quiet courage of showing up when no one is watching and doing the thing that matters. You don't need more motivation. You need more moments of decision. More moments where you remind yourself who you are and who you're becoming. So ask yourself not, what do I feel like doing today, but what action honors my future? Then do that, even if it's small, even if no one notices. Because that's how you build a life of meaning, one disciplined choice at a time. We live in a world that teaches us to look for signs of progress. We chase metrics. We seek proof. We want the results to be visible, measurable, undeniable. And when they're not, when the scale doesn't move, when the business doesn't grow, when the applause doesn't come, we begin to doubt. Not just the process, but ourselves. We start asking dangerous questions. Is this even working? Am I wasting my time? What's the point? But the thing about growth, the kind that truly matters, is that it's invisible before it's obvious. Real growth doesn't show up in likes or numbers or compliments. It shows up in the way you handle a hard conversation with more grace than last year. It shows up in your ability to pause before reacting. It shows up in the choices you make when no one's watching. And it often happens so gradually, so quietly, that you miss it until one day you look back and realize you've changed. We're not wired to notice slow progress. Our brains crave immediacy. We want to feel the reward. But the most meaningful transformations are subterranean. They happen beneath the surface long before they break through. Like a seed in the soil, growth begins in silence, in darkness, with no applause. Just persistence. That's where most people give up. Not because they can't do it, but because they expected proof too soon. They believed that if they were doing the right things, they'd feel different immediately. But life doesn't work like that. Change takes time. And in the beginning, the only evidence you have is your decision to keep going. You have to trust the work when there's nothing to show for it yet. That's the hard part. Showing up when there's no guarantee. Doing the thing again and again when the outcome feels distant. That's where resilience is forged, not in the results, but in the refusal to quit without them. Most people are not defeated by failure. They're defeated by invisibility, by the silence, by the lack of confirmation that their effort is paying off. But here's the truth. Every drop of sweat, every rep, every early morning, every small discipline, it all counts. Even if you can't see it, especially when you can't see it. There's a reason they say trust the process, not because the process is easy, but because it's honest. It doesn't lie to you. It gives you exactly what you put into it, just not always on your timeline. Progress isn't a vending machine. You don't insert effort and instantly get results. You plant effort and then you wait. And while you wait, you build faith, not just in the outcome, but in yourself. Because the truth is, you're not just working toward a goal, you're becoming someone along the way. And who you're becoming matters even more than what you're achieving. The habits you're building, the patience you're learning, the consistency you're developing. That's the real reward. That's what lasts. You see, growth is not a moment. It's a direction. It's a way of living. It's found in the decision to be slightly better today than you were yesterday, even if nobody notices, even if the mirror doesn't reflect it yet, even if the world isn't clapping. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who've built meaningful lives, who exude quiet strength, who lead with authenticity. Their growth stories aren't filled with flashes of success. They're filled with unseen hours, silent sacrifice, repetition, reflection, failing and trying again, learning in the dark. The mistake we make is thinking that if we can't see change, it's not happening. But think about the strongest trees. For years, all the growth is underground. The roots deepen. The foundation strengthens. Only after enough time does anything rise above the surface. That's how character is built. That's how true success is sustained. And when that breakthrough comes, when the results do show up, they'll seem sudden to everyone else. But not to you. You'll know it wasn't sudden. You'll know it was earned, brick by brick, quietly, relentlessly. That's why you have to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. Because the process is where you meet yourself. It's where you learn who you are when no one's clapping, when there's no trophy, when it's just you and the decision to show up again. When you embrace that mindset, the lack of visible progress doesn't discourage you, it strengthens you. Because you stop measuring your worth by results and start measuring it by resolve. You start to understand that doing the right thing matters, even if it doesn't feel rewarding right away. That every act of integrity, every moment of courage, every small decision aligned with your values is worth it, whether or not the world notices. And something powerful happens when you operate from that place. You begin to lead yourself. You stop waiting for validation. You stop chasing quick wins. You start anchoring yourself in purpose. And over time, that creates a level of confidence that no amount of external success can replace. Confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from evidence. And the best kind of evidence is self-generated. The knowledge that you did the work even when it was invisible, that you kept going even when no one was watching, that you honored the promise you made to yourself, even when it would have been easier to quit. That's the kind of growth that no one can take away from you. Because it wasn't gifted, it was earned. So if you're in a season where you're doing the work and not seeing results, don't panic. Don't give up. Don't assume nothing's happening. Instead, remind yourself progress is invisible until it isn't. Trust what you're building. Trust what you're becoming. And trust that if you stay the course, the results will come. And when they do, you won't just have what you were working for. You'll have the strength that came from working through the silence.